We remember ancient Egypt for its 3,000-year legacy of pyramids and mummies, but that massive scale hides a fatal structural flaw. The entire civilization was engineered to rely on the competence of a single person. This geographical reality was Egypt's greatest advantage. The Nile River acted as a cheat code for survival, flooding the banks with predictable regularity and leaving behind some of the most fertile soil on the planet. Because food was always in abundance, the population could move beyond the daily struggle of farming. They built massive cities, refined complex arts, and enjoyed bread and beer. This early stability allowed for progressive social structures. Women held a recognized status in society, maintaining the right to own property, run businesses, and initiate a legal divorce. While this natural abundance allowed the empire to thrive, it also concentrated all national wealth and resources into a single, centralized office. The birth of that centralized state is recorded here on the Narmer palette. Around 3100 BC, King Narmer unified the distinct regions of Upper and Lower Egypt, a feat symbolized by the specific crowns and the intertwined mythical creatures depicted on this stone. As Narmer's central government successfully stabilized the region, the Egyptian people began to interpret his singular power through a religious lens. To the average citizen, a leader capable of such total control was no longer a man, but a god on earth. This was the origin of the Pharaoh system. Religious, political, and military authority were all bottlenecked into one individual who was seen as the literal representation of the divine. By creating a leader who was considered infallible, Egypt built a government that could only survive as long as the person on the throne was strong. During the Old Kingdom, between 2686 and 2181 BC, this authority reached its absolute peak. Pharaohs held such total control over the nation that they could command the entire workforce for decades-long building projects. The Great Pyramid of Giza is the ultimate evidence of what that mobilized labor could achieve. Under Pharaoh Khufu, the state utilized advanced mathematics and a 365-day calendar to coordinate the thousands of workers needed for this engineering marvel. The system's vulnerability was exposed as soon as the lineage of strong kings ended. Weak pharaohs lost their grip on the administration, allowing local governors, called nomarchs, to seize regional power for themselves. This transition into the First Intermediate Period proved that the national structure was entirely dependent on the central figure. Without a strong god at the top, the country collapsed into civil war. After the collapse, the Middle Kingdom attempted a reboot. The pharaohs rebranded themselves as shepherds of the people to regain public trust, emphasizing their role as protectors rather than distant, untouchable deities. This era focused on internal strengthening, launching massive irrigation projects to maximize the Nile's output and expanding trade networks with neighboring regions. But by focusing inward, the empire ignored the military progress happening outside its borders. This wall relief shows the technology used by the invading Hyksos: horse-drawn chariots and composite bows, weapons the Egyptians were eventually forced to adopt just to survive the occupation. The Middle Kingdom fell because its leaders concentrated entirely on internal management, while leaving the borders vulnerable to superior foreign technology. Egypt reached its imperial peak in the New Kingdom by evolving into a military superpower. Leaders like Hatshepsut and Thutmose III adopted foreign weapons to push the empire's borders deep into modern-day Sudan and Syria. This era was dominated by the ego of Ramesses II. He spent 66 years on the throne, building massive monuments like Abu Simbel, and engaging in the earliest recorded peace treaty after clashing with the Hittites at the Battle of Kadesh. The stability of the empire relied on a complex religious operating system. Egyptians believed the soul required the body's preservation through mummification to successfully navigate the trials of the afterlife. Every soul faced a final judgment before Osiris. The weighing of the heart ceremony measured morality against a single feather. Is heavy with sin, the soul faced a second death. The monster Ammit waited to devour the unworthy, ending their existence forever. This entire religious tradition was nearly destroyed by a single pharaoh, Akhenaten. He used his absolute power to ban the old gods and force the nation into a monotheistic sun worship. proving that the whim of one man could destabilize a 1,000-year-old culture. By the end of the New Kingdom, Egypt was a superpower weighed down by its own ego. The obsession with eternal life and individual pharaohs had created a top-heavy administration prone to corruption. Invasions by the Sea Peoples and deep-seated internal corruption finally broke the centralized power of the New Kingdom. The empire no longer had the resources to maintain its massive borders. During the Third Intermediate Period, Egypt became a territory for foreign conquerors. The Nubians, Assyrians, and Persians all took turns ruling over the hollow remains of the state. When Alexander the Great conquered the region, his general Ptolemy established a new dynasty. The Greek rulers adopted the visual style of the pharaohs to maintain control over the local population, essentially wearing the culture as a mask. The last of these rulers was Cleopatra. She navigated a minefield of Roman civil wars, using diplomatic alliances with Julius Caesar and Mark Antony to prevent her country from being annexed. Cleopatra leveraged high-stakes political gambling to keep the Egyptian state afloat. It was a desperate attempt to sustain a 3,000-year-old system that had already lost its core strength. That effort ended when Octavian, the future Emperor Augustus, defeated the forces of Cleopatra and Antony. Egypt was officially annexed, becoming a mere province of the Roman Empire. This system of total centralization made the empire over-dependent on the individual at the top. When the pharaohs became weak or the administration corrupt, the national structure had no secondary layer to prevent a total collapse. Ancient Egypt proves that while centralized power can build wonders like the pyramids, it also ensures that when the leader is arrogant or weak, even the most powerful civilization on Earth will eventually fall to dust.